All right, it's Sunday after the biggest weekend of college football that we've had so far yet this year. A lot of teams went down. A lot of things happened yesterday. But we're going to start with the Georgia Auburn game. And I think the best place, well, at least where I want to start, is Kirby Smart calling out the fans yesterday. Um, it just, in my opinion, this isn't a new issue at Sanford Stadium. This has been going on long before Kirby Smart got there. And we've had some exceptions to the lackluster crowd at Sanford Stadium. I was at the Tennessee game in 2022. I was at the Arkansas game in 2021. I heard that the Notre Dame game in 2019 was a very loud and very hostile environment. But I do have to agree with Kirby Smart that the fan base at Sanford Stadium did not affect the game yesterday the way that they should have. Um, I'm as hard on Georgia as anybody, as any Georgia fan out there. If I feel like there's something wrong with this Georgia team or the program, I point it out time and time and time again. Um, but this team is not as good as the 2021 and the 2022 team. I don't even think this team is as good as last year's team. I've said again and again in my videos, this is the same Georgia team as last year with less star power. We lost Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey, both of our running backs, all to the NFL, and pretty much our entire secondary. Dumas Johnson transferred to Kentucky. Smile Munden's been hurt. Michael Williams has been hurt. I mean, this team that we have this year has been riddled with injuries, and a lot of its best players went on to the NFL, which that's fine. That's part of being an elite football program is you're going to lose players, but the guys who have stepped in behind those guys are just simply not as good, and they're not as fun to watch. So I understand all of those things. I do. I understand that it's a lot easier to be excited and to cheer when you've got something to cheer for. However, being at the Alabama game in Tuscaloosa 2 weeks ago, or last week, the amount of hatred, hostility, noise, and just pure hatred for our team that was cast down out of their stadium, down onto our players on the field, should be reason enough that you want to stand up for yourself and to make your stadium a tough place to play. I'm telling you, that crowd in Tuscaloosa last week was unbelievable. Unbelievable. So just for pride for us as a fan base, like we should come together and be unified on wanting to make our stadium just as hard, if not harder, for any team that comes in there and wants to play us. We should make that team never, ever, ever want to come back into Sanford Stadium again. And at the Tennessee game in 2022, I think we did that. I think that was a fantastic job. That was personally the loudest I had ever heard our stadium. Arkansas was loud. And then what year was did Zach Mettenberger and LSU they came to Sanford Stadium? That was a loud game. But just because the team is not as good doesn't mean that we shouldn't do our part as fans to make it as hard as possible for Auburn. Auburn's one of our biggest rivals. Auburn has broken our team's heart again and again and again on some extremely lucky plays. Auburn's one of our biggest rivals, one of our most hated rivals. After the 2013 season, when Auburn was whooping our ass on the Plains, Todd Gurley and Aaron Murray brought our team all the way back to take the lead. And then we had the prayer on Jordan Hare. That was the absolute most furious I have ever been after a Georgia game. And it was at the hands of the Auburn Tigers. So even if the team's not as good and you're not quite as excited, your hatred for Auburn should be enough to stand up and yell. Yelling for your team to do good or yelling to make the other team have a difficult time when they have the ball is not a hard task. Like, you've already done all of the hardest things when it comes to game day. You've paid a tremendous amount for the tickets. Most of the time, you've driven from Atlanta through the traffic, got up early, packed everything up in your car, hit 285, hit 85 north, got on 316, most of the time sat in an egregious amount of traffic to get to the stadium. Then you finally get within parking distance. You walk up the hills, down the hills, up the hills, down the hills, through all the tailgates. A lot of you are drinking beer from the time the sun comes up to the time that you walk in the stadium. So I would think that all of the hard parts of being a fan are over by the time you get into the stadium. All you got to do now is enjoy the game. And it's not a hard thing to stand up and make noise to make it hard for the other team. I've never understood that. And there's a certain section of our stadium that's worse at it than anybody else. And it's the Georgia sideline, underneath the boxes, all the season ticket holders in the 100 section behind the Georgia sideline. They just sit on their hands. And it's not everybody, but it's a lot of them. My sister was sitting over there yesterday. She told me everybody's sitting down, nobody's standing up, nobody's making noise, but everybody's bitching about the team. And if you want to bitch about the team, fine. I bitch about the team as much as anybody. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me how we can't do our part as fans. And I've seen this when I've gone to games as well. When I went to the Missouri game last year, it was the de facto SEC East championship. We were playing at home. And I cannot honestly say that it was a hostile home environment. It just wasn't. We got to do a better job as fans. Like, we've already paid all this money to get into the game. And we should do our part to make it hard on whichever team comes in there. And we should make them never want to come back. I just think we can do a better job. I think we should do a better job as fans, making Sanford Stadium a hard place to play. Just because of the hatred of our rivals, the love of our team. And I'm telling you, if you were in Tuscaloosa for that game, you know what I'm talking about. How difficult Alabama's fans made it for our team. I don't know how they played. I don't know how they focused and executed at all on offense. It was that loud. And we should want to do that for our guys. I understand that they're not as good and they're not as fun to watch. I get all that. So going forward, hopefully the fans will answer Kirby Smart's call, which I think it's a call to action, but I also think that it's a call for help. He knows, bro, if we know, Kirby Smart knows that this team is not as good. I mean, everybody knows it. We just don't have the guys this year. It's going to take a lot for Georgia to get to where they want to go this season. A lot of things are going to have to go right. We're going to have to coach better. We're going to have to play better. So that's enough of that. Getting into the Auburn game a little bit, though. I thought Georgia was going to win this game 31-10. They won 31-13. So the main thing I wanted to see out of Georgia yesterday was I wanted to see Georgia play 4 quarters of solid football. I didn't need them to blow Auburn out. I didn't need 50 points or anything like that. I really wanted to see a touchdown scored in every quarter. I wanted to see us look competent on offense for 4 quarters and just have no big mistakes and just play sound defense, which they've done all year minus the Alabama game. So I personally was okay with the Auburn game yesterday. I thought Georgia did better. I thought that we improved a little bit. Now, I do want to say this. When we look like shit on offense, it's bad. It is god awful. It's hard to watch. But when we execute and when we stay on track on offense, if we could just find a way to be more consistent and to do that all the time, we could be dangerous. We could be dangerous. I just think we need to stay on track, stay ahead of the down and distance, and we need to catch the fucking football when it hits us in the hands. This team and these drops. I haven't seen a team drop so many passes. I don't know when. I don't know when the last time I've seen this is. This team and the drops is a problem. But if we could just stay on track as an offense and execute, we've got a chance. We've got a chance. What yesterday showed me, this team has good players. Like, we have potential. If we can continue improving, if we can continue getting better and getting more in sync as an offense, and our young guys on defense keep getting experience and keep getting better, In November, we have a chance to do what we want to do. Now, like I said, a lot of things got to go right. We're not as talented as we were in 21 and 22, not even close. But I think across the country, as you saw yesterday, a lot of teams are feeling that. Texas is going to be a huge game and a huge challenge. But I think if Georgia plays their best and plays consistent football and can stay on track and on pace on offense and catch the balls that are thrown to them, I really think I think we can do what we want to do. It's going to take a lot. It's a tall task. We're not going to do it on talent alone this time. We've got to coach better. We've got to play better. We've got to execute. And we've got to cause more turnovers. And we can't turn the ball over. So I just wanted to say that. And then going into yesterday, the Alabama Vanderbilt. And that's another thing about the stadium. I watched this game from home yesterday, the Auburn game. And they were doing snapshots of the stadium and stuff like that, going to commercial break and when the SEC logo comes up and everything like that. And it showed the fans in the game on third down sitting down. And the loudest cheer in the stadium yesterday was when they showed Vanderbilt scoring on Alabama. That was the loudest that stadium was all day. So it's not like this is a false narrative or a lie. Like it just wasn't where it needed to be yesterday. Now, homecoming is kind of weird. It's kind of always like that, in my opinion, on homecoming. So this isn't a new problem. But if we could, as fans, let's do our part and affect the game. I know the team's not as good or as fun to watch as years past, but our hatred for these other teams coming into our house trying to take what's ours should be enough to make noise. I mean, the team needs our help. Let's help them. But anyways, moving on to the Alabama game. Just for a second, I got off track. I still want to talk about Georgia, but just real quick, the Alabama game, man, that just goes to show you that in the SEC, you have got to bring your A game week in and week out, regardless of who you're playing. I mean, it's such a strange league because you look at, the first week or second week when South Carolina goes into Kentucky, beats Kentucky at home by 30. And then so Georgia's like, oh, well, it looks like we're going to have an easy win against Kentucky, and we only beat them by 1 point. And then Kentucky goes down to Ole Miss and beats Ole Miss, on the road at an Ole Miss home game. And Alabama last week looked incredible against Georgia in the first half. And then Georgia battles all the way back to take the lead, only to have Ryan Williams do what he does. He's just an amazing athlete and player. Makes a big-time play to get Bama the win. But Bama played out of their minds in the first half and was blowing out a very good Georgia team. And then they go on the road to Vanderbilt and they lose. And Vanderbilt played the better game. This wasn't a fluke. Vanderbilt outrushed them, outpassed them, played better defense. This was not a fluke of a game. Vanderbilt handled them from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. And just what I can my observation from that game was I was sitting there and I was waiting to see. I was like, Alabama's eventually going to turn it on. And when they turn it on, it's over for Vanderbilt. And it just seemed like they waited and waited and waited and nobody made a play. And it just continued further and further into the game. And then by the time the Alabama players realized we're about to be out of time, it was too late. I mean, Ryan Williams ended up getting a touchdown to make it a 5-point game. But then Vanderbilt did what they needed to do. And Alabama just ran out of time. But the one thing I can say from watching Alabama last week as opposed to this week, the intensity just was not there. I was looking at the looks on the guys' faces, the focus, the intensity, the want to be there, the want to dominate was not there. And then you looked in the eyes of that Vanderbilt quarterback, he just was not going to be denied. It was just one of those situations where Vanderbilt wanted that ball game way, way more than Alabama did, and they executed. Their offense stayed on schedule. They forced turnovers. They got a strip sack from Jalen Milroe. That was a huge deal. Vanderbilt just outplayed them, period. Vanderbilt just outplayed Alabama. They beat them. They beat them straight up. So salute to Vanderbilt. And then Tennessee. I knew Tennessee was a fraud. I knew it. Everybody that I talked to that wasn't a Tennessee fan knew it. Everybody, all the Bama fans that I talked to at the Bama game, my best friend that's an Alabama fan, people at work, my parents that are Notre Dame fans, everybody knew this Voltard team was a fraud. I said from the very beginning, Tennessee looks good, but we have seen this before. I was like, I'll believe that this Tennessee Vols team is for real when they beat an Alabama and a Georgia and they don't lose a game that they shouldn't. I don't think they're going to beat Bama. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia. I've been saying that from the very beginning. And there they go yesterday, number 4 in the country on the road to Arkansas, and they end up losing the game. Arkansas played them tough, but Tennessee was number 4 and so good and going to win it all, just like we hear every time Tennessee goes 5-0, 6, whatever it is, and gets up there in the rankings. Tennessee gets helium head. We're going to win a national championship. This is going to be the time. We're going undefeated. Never. Never happens. Never. We've seen this time. We've seen this time and time again with Tennessee. I can't stand Tennessee. Tennessee is my most hated SEC rival because of their fans. I just don't like them. I don't like anything about them. I don't like their stadium. Don't like their colors. Don't like Phil Fulmer. Don't like their fans. I don't like how their fans made fun of Nick Chubb when he tore up his knee. It seemed like for years, every time we would go and play there, our players were tearing ACLs, MCLs, left and right on their field. Their fans made fun of it and cheered for it. So fuck Tennessee. Tennessee, I hope they get everything that they got coming to them. I hope Georgia beats their ass. I hope Alabama beats their ass. I hope anybody that plays Tennessee gives Tennessee their best and just beats their ass. Because you know one thing about Tennessee, once they lose one game, even if they do have a good team and they're on a winning streak, Tennessee's the kind of team that once they lose one, it's a domino effect. You can expect them to lose 3, just like they did in 2022. So fuck Tennessee. I was glad to see Tennessee lose. I hope Georgia beats their ass by 40 when they come to Sanford Stadium in November. I hope Alabama beats their ass. I can't stand Tennessee. So glad to have them out of the way and that hype train be over. So, I mean, I can't stand them. I cannot stand them. Southern Cal loses, so Colin Cowherd's going to cry himself to sleep about that. That's the biggest Southern Cal Lincoln Riley fan I've ever experienced in my life is Colin Cowherd. You know he's got a Southern Cal comforter and a Southern Cal nightlight. The way that dude just worships Southern Cal. I've never seen anything like it before. I didn't think Southern Cal was for real either. I've never thought that Lincoln Riley is for real. He's never done anything or had any accomplishments. Never won a playoff game. Never done anything of note at Oklahoma or at Southern Cal besides Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. I will give him that. That motherfucker can coach a quarterback. But when it comes to staying undefeated and winning big games, winning playoff games, and playing for championships, no. Lincoln Riley's not going to do any of that. Southern Cal's not going to do any of that as long as they've got Lincoln Riley. That fist fight against LSU showed me everything I needed to see about Southern Cal, and that was just validated yesterday. Who else lost? Michigan lost to Washington. I didn't get to see much of that one. Don't really care. Michigan already lost a game. Now they've got 2 losses. They lost to Texas. Now they lost to Washington. So Michigan, we knew they weren't going to be as good. I mean, this is not news or anything new to anybody that's been following college football. They're not for real. So in the Big Ten, I'm interested to see Ohio State and what Ohio State does. Ohio State ain't played fucking nobody yet. Nobody. Ohio State has been playing high school teams all season long, so I don't know anything about Ohio State besides they've got good players. They've got potential. Good for them. Ryan Day hasn't showed me shit either. Ryan Day's lost to Michigan 3 years in a row. Ryan Day hasn't done anything of note in the playoffs. Ryan Day's good to lose 1 game a year that he has no business losing at all. So I think Ohio State will do that again. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I know about Ryan Day. Ryan Day is going to lose 1 game he shouldn't this year. And then there's the big Michigan game. So Ohio State will probably be in the playoff just due to the fanfare and them being the ESPN's media darling, them and Alabama. I'm expecting Ohio State and Alabama to still be in the playoff as long as they don't have more than 2 losses, just because ESPN and the media, they love those 2 teams. They love those 2 brands. They're going to do everything they can to see Alabama and Ohio State in the playoff, and everybody knows that. This is no mystery or breaking news. This has been going on for years. So that's kind of just a quick around the country. But back to Georgia. If somebody could please, in the comments on Facebook, I really don't care where. I'm at a loss for this Georgia team. I really am. I've never been so confused as to what our identity is as a team. I don't know if we're a good team. I don't know if we're a great team who has bad moments. We're just so inconsistent. I don't know what this Georgia team is. I know we're young and some spots on defense. I know we're not as talented as years past. But it's wild how inconsistent we are in the same football game. We will look like 3 or 4 totally different teams. The best version of this Georgia team can be dangerous. They can be dangerous, and we can get to where we want to go if we played our best all the time. I said the thing about offense, man. If we could just stay on track on offense, and for everybody that's hating on Mike Bobo, the plays have been there to be made. Our players drop the fucking football. Carson Beck is going to get Dominic Lovett killed, throwing the ball behind him and shit on these crossing routes over the middle of the field. Carson Beck has got to hit. He can hit Arian Smith and Oscar Delp in the hands and they drop it. But for whatever reason, he wants to make it as hard as possible on Dom Lovett across the middle of the field to catch the ball, throwing it behind him and shit. He's been doing it all season. What I would love to see from this Georgia, I've been wanting to talk about this one. We need to give Nate Frazier the fucking football. There's no longer any excuse. I don't give a fuck if he can't pass block. I don't care about. He is clearly our most talented running back. Etienne has grown on me slowly over the course of the season, but he doesn't have the talent that Nate Frazier has. He's okay. I've said all year, Dejon Edwards would be the best running back on this team, and I mean it. Etienne's not better than Dejon Edwards. Absolutely not. No. We are missing Kendall Milton, the good Kendall Milton that we had at the end of the season, and Dejon Edwards. We could really use those guys on this year's team, and they aren't even our top tier of running back that we've grown accustomed to having at Georgia. We've been spoiled at that position for years. We are down bad at running back right now. Nate Frazier needs to get 10 or more touches a game. By season's end, he needs to be our number 1 running back. If we would just do that, we would be much improved. Dylan Bell needs to get the ball more. Period. I don't give a fuck how you got to get him the ball. On a sweep, on a reverse. I liked what we did yesterday with him, but Dylan Bell needs more touches in open space. He's too talented. He's too talented. Even if it's not throwing him the ball. Hell, he was a better running back for us last year than what we got this year. Dude, running back, we suck this year. I mean, our running back situation is not good right now. Branson Robinson, I've seen enough. Cash Jones, I said this in multiple videos. I'm happy for him. I love that the kid is living out his dream and playing big-time football at UGA. He's making some plays. But he is not the caliber of running back that we've grown to expect at UGA. And that falls on recruiting. We should have better recruits. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. But running back, receiver, defensive line, I've been on it all year long that we need to recruit better at those positions. And we do. And we better get a quarterback in here because you let Raiola walk to go to Nebraska. And that ain't looking good. We ain't got nobody like that on our team right now because Raiola looks really good at Nebraska. So, Georgia, if we can just continue getting better, if we can continue to develop our younger guys, we're going to be okay. But we've got to continue to get better. And we've got to catch the daggone football when it hits us in both hands. I mean, what do you do with, honestly, tell me in the comments, what do you do with Arian Smith? Because you throw him the ball 3 times, he's going to drop 1 out of the 3. But he averages 20 yards a catch when he does catch it. So, I mean, what do we do there? Do we stop throwing the ball? Do we take him out of the game? I mean, I don't think you can take him out because we just don't have the depth at receiver. We don't have guys that have that speed and that are going to get that open, but he's going to drop the daggum football. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss for that. But Frazier needs to touch the ball more. Dylan Bell needs more touches. Carson Beck's got to hit Dom Lovett in the hands and lead him when he's crossing over the middle. Dom Lovett has played well and shown a lot of leadership this season. Dom Lovett's probably my favorite guy right now on offense. He was one of the only guys keeping the team spirits up on the road at Alabama when we were down bad. Dom Lovett and Malachi Starks are the 2 leaders that I saw when we faced adversity this season. It wasn't Carson Beck. I'll tell you that right now. Carson Beck wasn't holding the team together. He's got to play better. And he's the same. I mean, when Carson Beck is good, he looks really good. But when he's bad, he's fucking awful. And that's just stuff that we got to get figured out. This next stretch of games is going to be tough, but that's what I want to see from Georgia is getting better and more consistent on offense. Continue to play sound defense. Continue to raise those young guys in the secondary. You can say what you want about Dalen Everett, and he can't cover at times. He gets totally lost. But I got to give this to Dalen Everett and Julian Humphreys. They will come up and hit you now. I mean, for some cornerbacks, those guys will come up and hit. That's one thing I do like about both those guys. Dalen Everett's a big guy, and he'll stick his nose in there. He don't care who you are, how big you are. He's going to come up and hit you. Dan Jackson has had an underrated season. People can say what they want about Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson's made some plays for us this year. I'm really proud of his play. I'm really proud of KJ Bolden. Who else? CJ Allen. I mean, he's always a star. He got beat real bad on that wheel route out in the flat at Bama. But everybody gets beat once in a while. Raylan Wilson looked good yesterday. I'd like to see us get Smile Monday back so that we can play all three of those guys. Jalen Walker's been incredible. Ingram Dawkins had a day yesterday. Ingram Dawkins, when he turns it on, he's really, really good. I really like Ingram Dawkins. And for as hard as I was on the defensive line early in this season, I've got to say the defensive line has played better. In the Bama game, and yesterday against Auburn, the D-line was coming up and making plays. So I'm proud of that defensive line. If we just got to keep getting better and better and better. And we've got to execute on offense. We've got to be a little bit better against the run on defense. But if this Georgia team continues to improve, if the fan base will get behind this team, if we win the rest of our home games, that's what's so important. Going on the road at Texas and Ole Miss is going to be a challenge. But if we can secure home wins, guaranteed home wins, because our fans do our part and we make it so hostile and so hard on the opposing team, and we create that home field advantage for the Dogs, we put ourselves in a really good situation to be in the playoff and to do what we all want to do this season. Everybody should be united on that. There shouldn't be any debate about that. Coach Smart asked for our help as fans. We've got to do what we can do and control what we can control as fans. We got to make it hard on the other team. That's just my opinion on that. Our head coach is asking us for help, telling us that we need to affect the game. So we need to do what we can to affect the game. So yesterday I saw what I wanted from Georgia. We scored in all four quarters. We did blow them out. There were things we could have done better. We were inconsistent on offense, yes, but I thought we took a step forward yesterday against Auburn. So I would like to see that trend continue. We just got to keep improving just a little bit each week. So we're playing our best football in November and December. And then if we can play at our best and coach at our best November, December, and in the playoffs, there's no telling what can happen because teams are going to have injuries. Teams are going to slip up and not play well. Teams are not going to be as well prepared as Georgia after 4 weeks off going into that playoff. I give Kirby Smart the advantage when it comes to that. So as you saw yesterday, anybody can be beat. We can go on the road and beat Texas. It can be done. They've got Oklahoma the week before. That falls into Georgia's favor. Georgia can definitely, if Kentucky can go on the road and beat Ole Miss, I know this Georgia team can do it. I know they can. And we're gonna kick Tennessee's ass. I have no doubt of that. Sanford Stadium has to rise to the occasion for that game. We've got to make it hard on the Vols. We've got to make a statement against the Vols and let them know there is no time soon that you're going to come down to Georgia and leave out of there with a win. It's going to be painful. It's going to be hard every time you come to Sanford Stadium. Hatred, terror, and extremely loud noise should be raining down on the Tennessee Vols team when they come to Sanford Stadium in November. We just got to do our part as fans. I got to go. I got a lunch that I'm supposed to be at. I hope everybody has a great Sunday. And I'll see you guys later on this week. Thank you.